Welcome into Mock Trial Masterclass, your guide to controlling the courtroom. I'm Luke and I want you to be a mock trial master. Let's talk about how you can make that happen. So Mock Trial Masterclass has now been on YouTube and on podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music for a year now. And it's been so much fun talking to you guys about how to be great at mock trial. It's been a blast and I can't wait to keep doing it for another year and even more beyond that. But I thought it might be fun to celebrate our new year of Mock Trial Masterclass if we took a look at a mock trial film session of me doing mock trial. What we're going to look at today is a cross-examination that I gave during my senior year of high school. I honestly have not watched this in a long time. I was obviously there in the moment. I imagine there will be some things that I really like and look back on and say, yeah, that was great. And there will probably be some things that we can pick apart. And the great news is, because it's me, I don't have to worry about offending anybody to pick it apart. So I hope this is fun for you guys to get a look at me in action, because you hear me talk all the time about how to do this stuff well. So maybe it'll lend me some credibility, maybe it won't, but I think we'll have fun either way. Just for a little bit of context, I'm cross-examining the plaintiff in a lawsuit. This plaintiff is suing the city that she lives in for just making a huge medley of errors relating to an Eclipse Day event that left her hurt and injured. But our argument as the defense was that it was actually her actions, decisions that she made that led to her injury. And this was my cross-examination of her. Let's take a look for better or worse. Okay, so first off, I can't even hear myself because I don't think they had turned the mic on quite yet. We're about to get there, I think.
You decided to spend even more time than normal devoted to hockey.
I did.
And because you like hockey so much, you didn't like the fact that there was a Michael Jordan statue in Center Park.
Okay, a few things to point off right off the bat here. First of all, this coat is enormous. Like, look at how far the shoulders are off of my actual shoulders. Like, my actual shoulders are right here, and this coat is like coming out to right here. Oh my gosh. And also, this tie is so long. Like, look, the tie is literally going down my crotch. Like, the tie should, so for those of you who are watching this, the tie should like stop like sort of at your belt line. Like, that's probably a good place for your tie to stop. This is going so far beyond that. Why did no one fix this?
Yes, that's true.
In fact, Miss Carroll, because you didn't like that statue, you decided to host a protest.
Okay, one thing to also notice is I used to do this weird thing. I don't do this anymore because someone finally called me out for it. Where if you watch my left arm right there, I do this thing as I'm standing there giving this cross where I'm like doing this with my arm. There was like a nervous tick that I had. And again, no one ever told me anything about it until well after this. So I guess I just kept doing it, but really weird.
I did.
A protest where you wanted to show the city of Hockeytown who really deserved the statue.
Yes.
And so you went about the legal process of applying to host your protest.
I did.
You submitted an application to the city, and that application was approved.
Yes, it was.
I want to go through some of the elements of your application. For the record, I'm referencing Exhibit I. Ms. Carroll, first I want to...
Something to point out here, just a general idea for your cross-examinations or your direct examinations. If you're going to use an enlargement of exhibit like I did here, do what I did in that keep it away from the jury when you're not using it and then turn it around when you're actually going to use it. It keeps the jury from being distracted by it when you're not actually talking about the exhibit. Also, I want to point out, I look awful with a clean shave. Like, there's a reason I don't clean shave anymore, which is back when I was working in sports, one of my coworkers had a radio show in town, and I was listening to his radio show one day, and he referred to me on the radio in Nashville for everyone to hear. He said, "Luke Worsham, the baby-faced assassin." And from that day on, I have not shaved my cheeks ever since then. And right here, we are getting a look at the baby-faced assassin, Luke Worsham.
Start with the date. The date you chose for your protest was August 21st, 2017.
Yes, that's true.
And as you said in your direct, that's Wayne Gretzky's birthday.
I don't believe I said it in direct, but it is Wayne Gretzky's birthday.
Well, regardless, Ms. Carroll, it was also the day of the long-awaited solar eclipse.
Yes, it just so happened.
When you planned this protest, Ms. Carroll, you knew that a total solar eclipse attracts a lot of tourists.
Sure.
You knew that more people than usual would be in Hockeytown on August the 21st.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. Whether or not Ms. Carroll knew that people would be coming to Hockeytown to watch the eclipse makes no difference in how she filed her permit or the actions that the city took.
Okay, I'm just going to point this out. Relevance objections during cross-examination are so very rarely a good idea. You want to use what I call the eye roll test. I actually didn't come up with that. Amanda Mundell, who wrote the book, Winning Objections, great book, she came up with this, but I use this term too now as a coach. Use the eye roll test, which is if something isn't making your eyes roll on cross-examination or really direct to, don't object to relevance, right? Don't object unless it's such a flagrant bit of irrelevance that you're like, oh my gosh, can we please move on? This is not that. Not a very good objection.
Response, Your Honor.
Overruled. Go ahead.
Didn't even have to respond.
And that was the day you chose for your protest, August 21st.
Yes, it was very important to me because Wayne Gretzky is my hockey hero.
You chose Eclipse Day to show the city who really deserved a statue.
Yes.
Now, Ms. Carroll, you also, for event location, put 123 Gator Street, correct?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Carroll, when you filled out this application, you knew it would be important to provide the city with accurate information.
Yes, that's true.
Because you knew that the city would be relying on the information you provided them to keep the citizens safe.
So one thing I remember about this tournament is after the first round, one of the scorers in that round came up to me and he said, hey, I really enjoyed your performance, but there's one thing you've got to fix. And that was, I was ending like all of my cross questions with correct and isn't that true and those sort of filler words. And as you can hear in this cross-examination, I completely got rid of that once he mentioned it. And it might have been a little uncomfortable at first because those crutches, those fillers, we kind of get used to them. But as I think you can see here, and what I quickly figured out in that moment was that you really don't need them, which is why when I teach cross-examination now, I say, don't use those fillers if you can help it. One or two every now and then, not that big of a deal, but you don't want to overload your cross with correct and isn't that true. It's just not necessary. And again, as you can see here, it's really effective to not have to do that. So hat tip to that juror who filled me in on that, so now I can fill you in on that. Also, by the way, that is my dad sitting there with his face partially cut off by the poster wearing the brown Polo Ralph Lauren sweatshirt.
Miss Carroll, 123 Gator Street. It's not where you hosted your protest.
No, it's not. But as I stated on direct, I did put protest at Michael Jordan's statue, and with it being at 123 Gator Avenue, I think it's very clear where my protest would be occurring.
Well, I appreciate that answer, Ms. Carroll, but my question wasn't whether you gave the city enough notice. My question was, is 123 Gator Street where you held your protest?
No.
Not to toot my own horn, because I don't want to do that in this video, but thinking back to 2018 version of me, what I like about that question and the way that I phrased it there, and I doubt I was even thinking this far ahead back then, is I hate when people on cross-examination ask, so that's a yes to my question. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me. Doing something like that where you go back to the question and you say, hey, I wasn't asking about this random thing you talked about. I was actually asking about fill in the blank. I think that's a much more effective thing than just, so is that a yes to my question? Because that can kind of go in a million directions, but the way that I did it here back in high school, that works a little bit better, I think.
Now, Ms. Carroll, you also, for anticipated number of attendees, put 200.
Yes, that's true.
5 times that amount of people is what actually showed up to the protest.
Yes.
Over 1,000 people were actually at Center Park.
Yes, that's true.
Now, Ms. Carroll, I want to talk about the actual day of your event, August the 21st, 2017. You arrived at Center Park at noon.
Yes, I did.
Your protest was slated to start at 2 p.m.
Yes.
Shortly after 2 p.m., that's when these counter-protesters arrived.
Yes, around the time of the eclipse.
Now, these counter-protesters, as you mentioned earlier, have a history of violence.
Yes, they do.
Violence specifically toward your catfish club.
Yes.
Because just a year prior, your catfish club was involved in another violent interaction with this counter-protest group.
Yes, I believe that's
with
true.
the Ernest Fan Club.
Yes.
But you decided to show up to the protest anyway.
Well, I told the city manager what would happen and that there was potential for conflict, and he told me that there would be no problem, so I assumed it was all right for me to continue.
So you did show up anyway?
Yes, I did.
Showed up ready to show the city who really deserved a statue?
Yes.
Miss Carroll, as time went on and the eclipse got closer to full totality, a friend of yours threw a black tarp over the Michael Jordan statue.
Yes.
Right about that time, Miss Carroll, You looked around to see if there were any police nearby.
Yes.
You didn't see it.
No.
Play acting like that on cross-examination is really, really fun, and it's also very, very effective. Using your body, using your movement to help you tell the story. I mean, so the question I asked there was something about looking around to see if there was police. And I didn't just say, you didn't look, or you looked around to see if there were police. I said, you looked around to see if there were police. And just adding that little element, again, it aids your storytelling. It helps the jury latch on to the presentation you're trying to make. I would absolutely do that in your cross-examinations. It's very effective.
I did not.
And that's when you reached down and picked up a rope.
I mean, they weren't directly connected, but yes.
You did pick up a rope after that?
I found it in my hand. I wasn't, consciously doing it, but yes.
You found it in your hand.
Yes.
So it was handed to you, you picked it up.
Either or.
You don't remember?
The whole entire scene was very hectic with all that was going on.
Okay, one thing I do remember about this case is that there was a line in this witness's statement that said, I found a rope in my hand. Now, that is a horrible line. And I, on this cross, was clearly trying to get her to just admit she picked it up. And she was so, tied into that statement in her affidavit. This is a situation where I would maybe, not go quite with the way the affidavit put it. If I were her, I probably would have just admitted to, yes, I picked up the rope, because going with something so absurd as I found the rope in my hand as if it had magically appeared there, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think this probably would have gone better for her. I mean, it would have saved both of us 3 questions or so in that interaction if she had just said, yeah, I picked up the rope. I mean, number one, how else was it going to end up there? And number two, it's just an odd statement, and it makes you look like you're trying to, or make her look like she's trying to wiggle out of something when she's like, oh, it manifested in my hand or whatever. So occasionally you'll run into situations like that where you don't want to be quite that married to your affidavit, where maybe the affidavit words something strangely like that, and you can just kind of admit to it as opposed to sticking with an odd wording like a rope appeared in my hand. Just say I picked up the rope. That's going to be your better bet most of the time.
Well, however the rope ended up in your hand, Miss Carroll, you then took that rope and tied it around the Michael Jordan statue.
Yes.
Then you grabbed the rope and started to pull on that statue.
Another problem I'd like to point out with the tie that I'm wearing is that the knot is almost hiding under this side of the collar. My recommendation, by the way, for ties, I'm a half Windsor guy. That is not a half Windsor. Half Windsor is what I wear now. If you're going to wear a tie, do a half Windsor. It looks a lot better than whatever nonsense I got going on here.
Yes, I did.
You tried to pull the statue down.
I did. It did not actually fall down, and no one was harmed.
Miss Carroll, as you're standing there pulling down the Michael Jordan statue, these counter-protesters, the Violent Airness fan club, they're still there, right?
Yes, they are.
You mentioned that these guys are big basketball fans, very passionate about Michael Jordan.
Again, I say it again like I talked about this earlier, but eye contact with the jury is really important to sell your big points on cross-examination. You can see I'm doing it here. I'm getting to the big points. I'm turning to the jury, making sure they're saying, hey, this is important. Pay attention to this. Really effective thing to do on your cross-examinations. Also, I pointed out my dad on the left side of your screen. Right there to my right in the purple shirt, that's my mom.
Yes.
And they're watching as you're pulling down a statue of their idol.
That's true.
And it was after that you say the leader of this counter-protest group sprinted toward you with a flashlight.
Yes, that's true, but if you're insinuating that my injuries were my own fault, I would disagree.
Well, that's nice, Miss Carroll, but what I asked was that, after you started pulling on the statue, was when the counter-protest leader walked toward you with a flashlight.
I was mean in high school as an attorney. I got a lot nicer in college mock trial. I would get angry too easily in high school, which is another important point to make. There was nothing wrong with that comment, but there's no need to get angry in mock trial and cross-examination or emotional. The more straightforward, the clearer you are, the better. I definitely prefer college mock trial me to high school mock trial me, who get a little bit too feisty sometimes.
Ran toward me, yes.
And Miss Carroll, when you tied the rope around the Michael Jordan statue, that was a decision that you made.
Yes, it was. It was a reaction to everything that was going on.
And when you started to pull on that Michael Jordan statue with violent counter-protesters in the wings, That was a decision that Cardin Carroll made.
Yes, I did pull on it. It was more subconscious and just very fast.
The city of Hockeytown didn't force you to make those decisions, did it?
I'm sorry. I couldn't.
Oh, I was so angry about that because that was like my big moment, right? We're trying to point out that this is all her fault. So I'm like, you pulled the statue, that was your choice. You had these angry people waiting in the wings, that was your choice. The city of Hockeytown didn't make you do those things, and I wanted to just face the jury and have this like mic drop moment. And she was like, I'm sorry, what'd you say? Oh my gosh, it killed me.
The city of Hockeytown did not force you to make those decisions.
Force me? Is that what you said?
Did the city of Hockeytown make
I don't know why she didn't understand that question. I think it's a fairly simple question.
you pull down the Michael Jordan statue?
No, they did not.
No further questions.
And that's it. That was fun. I recommend doing mock trial and then years later going back and looking at it and being able to poke fun at yourself a little bit, and also maybe look back and say, yeah, that was pretty good. I wasn't as bad as I thought I might have been. So hope you all had fun with that. Hope you maybe have some tips and tricks to take forward to apply to your own cross-examinations. If you want to make fun of me in the comments, I would love nothing more. I think I would really enjoy reading those, actually. Thanks for being a part of the Mock Trial Masterclass family. You guys are awesome. Until next time, signing off.